What you are about to watch is a segment edited from one of our 4-hour board certification courses. Each segment focuses on an area of governance that board members frequently ask us to explain in more detail. We produce these clips to provide information on demand, giving you the option to revisit key topics whenever you need clarity, reinforcement, or a quick refresher. The video is a discussion for Homeowners Association board members that covers the Florida statutes governing board meeting requirements. This is a copyrighted video by Ardor.
I went over the last time, so this would be too early for this one. So, handling the association meetings is our next subheading. First of all, as a board, the first board meeting you're going to be involved in is the organizational meeting that takes place after the membership meeting that does an election. All board meetings require a 48-hour notice. At the organizational meeting, you're going to elect the officers, and typically it is immediately after the voting. There are associations that have a delayed organization meeting. If you do that, that's fine as well, but it has to get a 48-hour notice before it happens. Regular board meetings, that's to do regular board business, obviously. You have to post a 48-hour notice in a conspicuous location. Sorry about that. Coming down with something, evidently. So 48-hour posting on the association. It could be a community room. It can be, I've seen them in mailbox areas where everybody goes to get their mail. There's a bulletin board there. So it needs to be conspicuous posting. There is a caveat and I've heard this from some boards, because of the physical plant, the physical composition of their community, there really isn't a common area to do it. If that's the case, the other option is you can send via mail a 7-day notice before the meeting. That's the only other option that's available to you for noticing board meetings. There are special board meetings. And those are to consider things of an elevated nature. So special assessments, amendments to rules and regulations, material alterations, well, not material alterations, but there are things that require a 14-day notice before the meeting. If you're considering a special assessment, a written notice has to go out 14 days in advance. It has to be either mailed, hand delivered, electronically transmitted if people have opted in to electronic transmission. So that notice 14 days in advance has to go out. And for anything that's going to be considered the supplemental documents, like the special assessment calculation or the actual amendment to the rules, that has to go out at least 7 days in advance of that meeting. So the statute gives you a 7-day window to provide any additional documentation that's required, but all the documentation needs to go out. Additionally, all of these notices should be posted on the website in the same compliance period as it is for the physical delivery or the posting. Member rights at board meetings. Under Florida Statute 720-303-2B, members of a homeowners association have the right to attend all board meetings, except those that are between an attorney and the association board regarding potential litigation or any meeting that discusses personnel matters. That right includes the ability to speak on every designated agenda item that the board is discussing. The association may adopt reasonable rules, however, that govern the frequency, duration, and manner of member statements, and may include the use of a sign-up sheet. So to understand, you have to have all of the agenda items posted, and we'll talk about the agendas here in a few moments. And the owners, every one of them have the right to speak on every one of those agenda items. What you have the right to do is to set up some uh, rules with regard to keeping that orderly. So you can say that, yes, every owner has the right to speak. Here's the sign-up sheet at the beginning of the meeting. Please indicate which item you would like to speak on. Put your name next to it. We'll call on you during the meeting, and you will have 3 minutes to speak on that matter. So every board meeting, every owner has that right. You have the right to be able to set up some sort of order so that it doesn't become chaos. Additionally, if 20% of the total voting interests petition the board to address a specific item of business, the board is required to place that item on an agenda for its next regular or special meeting, and it has to happen no later than 60 days after receipt of the petition. The board, if you don't have a meeting scheduled, you're going to have to, if you get a petition, you're going to have to schedule one because you've got a 60-day window. In this case, if you've been petitioned to discuss certain matters by the owners and that 20% threshold is met, every member has the right to speak for at least 3 minutes on each matter placed on the agenda by the petition. And in that case, you can have them sign up, or they could submit a written request to speak prior to the meeting being held. So there's a caveat there. So you can have the same sign up sheet. It indicates at least 3 minutes. I've seen some policies that give owners 2 minutes on regular board meeting items, but in this case, the statute says at least 3 minutes for anything that's been petitioned by the homeowners, and they can either sign in on a sheet when they show up or provide a written request prior to the meeting being held. Board member voting, each director's vote or abstention on every matter must be recorded in the meeting minutes. That's stipulated 723.033. That practice maintains a clear record of how everybody has decided on all of the matters that the board votes on. Florida Statute 723.032C requires that the notice of all board meetings must specifically identify all agenda items. The association shall maintain a copy of the agenda distributed for each board meeting as part of the official records of the association. So the requirement is to specifically identify all agenda items as part of your notice for the board meeting. So when this came into effect, I know a lot of homeowners association, the way they advertised the board meeting was to put a big sign at the entrance, one of those like real estate signs that said board meeting this Thursday at the community room. And that's how they advertised it. That's not an appropriate notice of a board meeting. Again, the notice has to include specifically identified agenda items. So you must post or mail the meeting notice at least 48 hours or 14 days mail it 14 days in advance as required by the statute. The agenda must be included with the notice, and it must identify each item the board intends to vote on or discuss. Because remember, every owner has the right to speak on every agenda item. So you can't hide an agenda item, or you can't circumvent the fact that you want to talk about something that's sensitive. It has to be open and transparent. And a copy of each agenda must be kept as part of the official records of the community. Some practical advice here: post the agenda alongside the meeting notice in a prominent location. List each action item clearly. So you can't just say landscaping as the agenda item. It needs to be review and approve a landscape contract, because people might be concerned about that. And if you are just saying, we're going to decide on the flowers that are going to be planted or new plantings out front, they may not be interested. But if there's a new landscape contract that's going to be approved, they may want to hear the details of that. So you have to list agenda items with the notice, with enough detail that allows owners to determine whether it's an item they want to attend to listen to and or have the opportunity to comment about. So just a sample agenda after the items that indicate where and when and so forth. The call to order, you want to confirm that there's a quorum of the board members. The proof of notice of the meeting that's typically supplied by your management company. The establishment of the quorum, so the roll call of the board members. Approval of previous meeting minutes is one of your first items on the agenda. So the last meeting minutes reviewed, approved. Any reports, president's report, the manager's report, a treasurer report, any of the committees that you have established that you're looking for reports from. Any old business? Again, if you're taking up old business, our agendas used to be able to say, old business and then new business, as the order of things. But now, old business, again, the details of what that means, what's going to be considered, things that have been tabled in the past, but specifically what they are. New business is the same. Can't just say miscellaneous or other business. You have to give the details of what you're going to be talking about. You are in violation of the statute if you talk about anything that's not on this agenda in detail. You are not allowed to vote on. You're not allowed to discuss as a board any item that's not on the agenda. Then you may want to do the owner comments. It's an additional opportunity for owners to have who have general comments about anything related to the community. And that's in addition to their ability to speak on every agenda item and then adjournment. What to include in meeting minutes for the board? It is not supposed to be, and I know some people want it to be, a transcript of everything that was said at the meeting. It's not a court case where there's somebody there that's recording everything that's been said. Basically, it's the actionable items. So identifying the meeting, who presided, who were the members present, the statement of quorum, the approval, who set the motion, who approved, and then the carrying the motion, and then any other motions or resolutions that are being considered, the exact wordings, you're going to attach those to it anyway. The name of the members who made the second on each motion, the votes, how they were taken, who voted positively, who voted against. Brief summary of any discussion, only to the extent it's needed to clarify the item that was discussed and approved. Any owner comments that you would like to include. Again, it's not supposed to be a transcript of what they said, but if there is something of particular interest that should be included as part of the minutes of the meeting and then the time of an adjournment. So meeting minutes, actionable items, and nothing that's not related to the original agenda. 720 prohibits board members from discussing association business outside of properly noticed meetings, and it's really from deciding on association business. So you can't deliberate or make decisions regarding HOA matters in a private, informal discussion. Emails and text, you can't make a board decision by going through electronic correspondence. You can't make a board decision by polling the members, an informal poll, and say, yeah, we all agree, we'll just vote at the meeting. Those are all in direct violation of the statute. What you can do, though, is you can have discussion. And that's where the confusion lies. Board discussion versus board decision. if you couldn't have conversations as a board, you could never get anything accomplished. So you can talk about issues, things you see, your concerns, your ideas at any time in person, by phone, or by email. Anything you're seeing, any problems you're having, you can ask the management company to look into anything and report back to the board. Prepare recommendations if it's regarding a contract or something like that. As long as you're not committing the association to an action, expense, or providing official direction for something new. Discussion informs and explores, but it doesn't direct. So a decision then occurs when a majority of the board votes in favor of a direction or action. And if you're going to do that, then you need to do it at a properly noticed board meeting. It needs to be on the agenda, and it needs to be decided positively by a quorum of the board members. Decisions commit the association to an action, cost, or a policy. Therefore, they must happen at a properly noticed board meeting. Now, there's a caveat here, and that is if the board's already voted in a noticed meeting to approve something, then carrying out that decision by giving direction is not a new decision, it's the execution of an existing one. But whatever that action is that you've told somebody to take has to be traceable back to a board decision, and it can't make any alterations or adjustments to what was approved. So perhaps the board approves signing a contract for a new landscaper. You get into the situation where the board president or the board members are signing the contract. They're all present, and the landscaper's pleased and says, "You know what? I will, for just, it was going to cost $1,000 a year for new flowers for the year. Out of appreciation, I'll do it for $200." And I added it to the contract. If you've changed the contract, you can't sign it. It's not possible because that's not the action that was approved at the public meeting. So either they're going to bill it separate, or you're going to find some workaround, or you're going to have to go back and prove it over again. So as long as the action you're taking is traceable back to a board decision and you're not making any alterations or adjustments to that decision, then you're fine. As long as you're just having discussions, their boards have to, if you're getting some concrete work in the community and you're looking for some information from vendors, the whole board has to sit down and hear it. They have to hear what the vendors have to say. They have to have the opportunity to ask questions of the vendors. The only problem is if you ever get to the point where anybody says, "That sounds good, let's go ahead and do it," what do the rest of you think? That's at the point you have to cut it off. You can't do that. But anything else, exploring, getting information, telling the association's management company to do something for you, to bring information back so that you can make those decisions at a meeting, all of those things are fine. Membership meetings. So the purpose of the membership meetings can be a variety of things. Most prominently, the annual meeting to elect the association directors. For membership meetings, the notices need to be delivered 14 days in advance. They